Welcome. You are at the CCC.
Where there are no outside issues. My name is Anthony. I'm a 7th-year doctoral student in clinical psych, an addict and an alcoholic, another bozo on the bus, and I care about you.
Yes, and I'm LouiLou, and my pronouns are he and him. I am in recovery for crystal meth and alcohol, and I am always in search of balance. Yes, and each week we will provide and create a brave space where we can engage in topics around recovery.
Yeah, that's right. It is recovery. Our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for more people in recovery.
Yeah, but before we do that, before we do that, please like, share, comment on this episode, and rate us if you can. Rate.
If you can. What the hell just happened?
I don't know. I had a moment.
That's okay. Me too. Mm-hmm. And now the disclaimer. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on At the CCC are ours alone. We do not represent anyone but ourselves. The material and information shared here is for general information purposes only. In other words, we're just a couple of friends behind a mic here to entertain you.
Yes. You know what happened? So I've been trying to go off script. And even though I should know this by heart, I've been trying to go off script so that I'm not like I'm all...
Yeah, that's what I was doing. And I've been able to do it these last couple of episodes. And for whatever reason, I just... it's all good.
It's like today. Perfection is not something. It's something we can strive towards. It's like we settle for progress.
I said that to my sponsor like a few years ago, and she said without skipping a beat, and she's like, "And how long are you going to stroke that one?" I love her. Krylon, wherever she is right now.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. I got to see my old sponsor, Stephen H. He was in town.
And that is my grand sponsor.
Yeah, it's your grand sponsor. Yeah, it was great. Love him to death. It's so funny because I introduced him to all my sponsors. I'm all, and other people, when I tell the story about when I was toxic and I worked the steps very intentionally, this is the guy. This is the guy. It's like Billy put it perfectly. He brought me from toxic to grace. He walked me through that experience because I was a mess.
So many people have wonderful things to say about Stephen.
Yeah, no,
it comes up a lot. At least a couple times a year, I hear someone sharing from either the pulpit, from either their secretary in a meeting or someone from the floor that like his name always comes up.
Wait, were you at Mascara this weekend?
No, I wasn't. No.
Okay, no, because it's interesting because I feel like I had the same conversation.
Oh yeah,
like I was talking about him, and it's like so many people, and I'm like, yeah, because it's like he's definitely like put his hand and his words, because it's like he talks about finding a closed mouth person, someone who you can trust, because I think it's super important that you're able to talk about whatever you need to talk to with at least one person in your life,
I have a Stephen story.
Oh, okay.
So years ago when I was with my ex, okay. I remember it was one of the first times I'd ever spoken to him. Uh-huh. And I didn't say much, like I was 3 minutes in or whatever. And he goes, "Hold on, slow down. You when did you move in?" And he goes, "Okay." and he said he goes, "And you guys are fighting?" He goes, "Okay." And that was it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly, because it's one of those things.
When did you move in?
It's one of those things where he'll all he has to do is say certain things, and then you start to work it out for yourself.
Yeah.
Somebody's listening and say, "Well, thank you for those kind words," and the person didn't say a word. They just said, okay, so there.
Yeah. Well, God bless him wherever he is.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I am doing okay.
That's good.
Yeah. I've been really stressed out. I have, applications. My first round of applications are due November 1st.
And these are applications for grad school or?
No. This is for,
you've already done that.
Yeah. I'm almost done with grad school.
Okay. So it's for,
this is for psychologists, we have to do pre-doc and post-doc. So this is for pre-doc.
Okay.
So I'm applying to a bunch of places. There's some in the Northeast and then about a bunch out here. And, it's a very competitive process. A lot of us are competing for 4 seats, So wow. Like one of the places that I'm applying to, they take 16 students a year, but those 16 students are divided into tracks. And so the track that I'm applying to, they only accept one person.
Oh.
And then there's another track where they accept 2 people. And everyone's not applying for the same track.
Can you apply for both of them?
No, you can only apply to one track. And so they get over 400 applications. So the competition gets pretty intense. And so that's just one place. There's a bunch of other places that I'm applying to.
Do you have any, do you have a mentor or someone who kind of?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of folks, you kind of have to pull out like all the stops. You have to, you need to get a lot of support from people. You have, we have an entire department in my program dedicated to getting people prepared for this.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So yeah, I have a lot of support. It's, it's just a lot of work, and I still have to work.
Yeah.
I still have to make money and
make that money.
Yes. But I've been very grateful. One of the things I keep coming to is like, I get to do this, The reason why I'm able to even engage in this process is because I've worked really hard over the last so many years. And this is actually a very exciting part of my life. There's, I love today's topic because of just given like my current state. But yeah, I get to do this. I'm not running from the cops. I'm applying to programs that are going to
I couldn't imagine you running from the cops.
No, I've never been that kind of person.
Yeah.
Even when I was younger and I thought I was like a bad boy.
Yeah. No,
I really wasn't.
Yeah. I've never really been a bad boy, but I always say it's like, hey, I went to rehab, so I'm a badass.
Yeah. I mean, I always had like close calls, but I think deep down inside, I know deep down inside, I was just like a scared person.
How many times were you scared?
When I was, scared. So was it, well, I just, you know what I mean? Like early recovery.
I got you. I was counting. You had said scared.
But I think what a nice way to like, not transition, but what a nice way to like walk into today's topic. So today's topic is being restored to sanity. Mm-hmm. And so this is something for folks who may be new to recovery. Being restored to sanity is basically what we say happens to us when we stop drinking and using and we start working the steps.
Yeah.
To make that more relatable, being restored to sanity, if you're not in a 12-step program, that just might be like you regaining your peace of mind or some semblance of like groundedness. But so when we talk about being restored to sanity, we're talking about, in the best case scenario, what happens when your life starts to get back on track, when you put down the drink, put down the drug.
Absolutely. And it's not like the first thing you see is sanity. And it's like, it's not tied to necessarily this idea of you once being insane. That's not it. It's about this obsession that we had with alcohol and drugs. And when you reach that point where, how some people say, I'm recovered from that hopeless state in mind, I don't lose, I know for a fact, like, I'm at a place now that if I pick up again, it's because I decided to pick up, and it's not because I have this unrealistic craving that keeps me hostage, that holds me hostage, pretty much.
Yeah. When you talked about what was it that you said? Like some people say, my name is so-and-so and I have been, or something like that.
And I'm recovered. Yeah. It's like, I'm all okay. It's like, I used to think recovered.
That annoys me so much.
Yeah. But it's true.
Can I tell you why it annoys me so?
Well, you're going to anyway. Okay, so go ahead.
I mean, we come together to talk to each other. So,
okay.
Unless you come on the show to just hear yourself, which might be.
That's it. Because are you kidding? The crispness of my voice, of course. Go ahead.
So, I get so prickly when people make things up in the rooms.
Uh-huh. Oh
yeah. Oh, I get so prickly.
Well,
go ahead.
I don't want to throw you off. I want you to remember your point, but it's not people. It's some people. There are some people that, I was talking about this with a sponsee. It's like, thank God we have so many different voices or whatever and people we can hear. And we're only supposed to reach and connect with the people we're supposed to reach and connect with.
Yeah.
But there are some people that no matter what, I don't know whether or not it's past experience or whatever, they represent something in my life or whatever. They open their mouth. Somebody I love could say it and I will be completely, wow, that's amazing. And they open their mouth and say, you are the worst person alive,
Yeah. I will acknowledge right here, right now, in front of all these lovely people and I know I'm the problem. You know what I mean? Like, I know that if I'm annoyed by something, person, place, or thing, it's me. I get that. And,
but like in this instance, I just choose to live in the problem a little longer.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because recently, my love and I were talking about.
Really, I was waiting for this.
Well, he and we have like such great conversations, which is why I think about him a lot when I'm on the show. Like he's like a great conversationalist, and we have like these wonderful, meaningful conversations. And one of the ones that we had was, what is the role of venting? And we were talking about how venting is beneficial if the goal of the venting is to like put you in a position where you can better engage with, say, like the person, place, or thing that bothers you, or if it is if the goal of the venting is to get you to a better place, right? As opposed to if you're venting for the sake of like, what is it, character assassination, if you're trying to like assassinate someone's character, or if you're trying to like, I don't know.
So isn't it a really fine line?
Well, of course.
It's a really fine line because it's like, I could tell myself that I'm venting for the purpose of like what you said.
Yeah.
But really, I'm venting because I like to hear myself complain, and I'm funny. And I'm telling you, it's like, if I'm saying, yeah, anyway,
Yeah, I mean, there are no, this is interesting because what I'm thinking of, and then we can take another U-turn to the back to
what
our
I will say,
topic,
and I think we have a comment.
Do we already? Is it Stephanie?
I learned from a really good friend, early recovery, like, because I'm not perfect and I'm working towards it. It's not just about venting or why you're venting, but who you do it to, who you vent to, because I think that can be toxic and kind of unhealthy. And like, I have friends who like, they don't listen to it all the time. They don't put up with it all the time. But if I'm talking to them, they know that, I might be starting the process of working through some shit,
Yeah. And I think like with everything, like in moderation, and I'll come back to that. I took notes. Let's see that comment. A queer chaplain. It's me, Valentina.
Valentina. I love it. It's like, can you please take that mask off? what part of lip sync your life don't you understand?
Did she have her mask on during her lip sync?
Yes, exactly. She wanted to keep it on. She didn't know the words.
No, she didn't.
Yeah, it was the best. That was some good TV. Like, I like her now, but at the time I was just like, yes.
Isn't Valentina the one who said, she goes, she's like, someone was like, you're late all the time. And she goes, I'm late all the time. Do you want me to feel guilty? You want me to feel bad about myself? It was like something like that.
Yeah, it was probably one of the best reunions, like when they were still doing like the
yeah.
They do all the reunions. It was really good. Everybody against Valentina.
So being restored to sanity. Yes. So I want to go take a U-turn.
Go back.
So no hard or fast rules. So, going back to like my acknowledging when someone, like I'm being annoyed by someone, like the reason why I say I acknowledge that that's a me thing is that, at least in my opinion, I think that my opinions and my reactions are the result of all of my experiences, right?
Absolutely. I'm an island.
And then the other thing I was thinking of is there's also like the biological processes involved in what happens to us when we're venting, right? Like, so we know that venting is good for us because it alleviates some of the pressure in our brain. We know it's just good for us to kind of like process ideas. I know I'm an external processor, so this is another thing that he's really good at is like, he's very good at like hearing. I'm going to stop doing that. I'm like, every episode I'm going to talk about how great he is. But one of the things,
I didn't say anything. You saw
I saw
something.
it in your face. I saw it in your face.
You did. I don't know what you thought you saw, but it's like, I
saw your face.
I told you with my words, and you need to pay attention to my words. Don't stop doing that because
Sometimes
it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, Louis, you're so sweet. So So thank you, Louis. So what I was thinking of
But
is,
I will talk shit.
I know you see, this is what I mean. You give me a little, then you take a lot, then you give me a little, then you take a lot. You thought you were safe, and then you're not. I'm an external processor, and so I need to, like, whenever I have thoughts and I'm trying to work something out, like I just have to kind of like vocalize it. And then what ends up happening is, as a result of vocalizing it, like I start to be able to connect things, right?
Yeah, it's like, that whole thing with like, it doesn't become real, or you don't, until that point when you open your mouth and you say it, and then sometimes you hear, it's like, this sounds like fucking stupid.
You know our friend Juan,
yes,
the DJ? Uh-huh. He's been on the show before.
He's my sponsee brother.
Oh, he's wonderful.
Rick.
So I got to chat with him for the first time not too long ago at the Art for AIDS event. He manages.
He asked for your number. I gave it to him.
Yeah. So he's so wonderful. So he told me about this book. And I'm so glad you gave him my number, because he sent me the book.
Yeah.
But I forget what it's called, but it's by Michael Singer, and it's about like that voice in our brain, like the voice in our head, and how that voice in our head is not us, it's the thing. And this is also echoed in like things like Vipassana, and Vedanta, but like how the voice in our head is not us, but the thing that's listening to the voice is us. Yeah. And so in thinking about like being annoyed with other people and the things that come up, right? I think being restored to sanity is, for me, it's when I start to develop this sense of, and the ability to kind of like pull away, right? So sometimes like I might be in a situation and I might want to, and you see this, I see this a lot with people who are new, like they're real quick to flash the second someone says something to upset them, right?
Oh yeah.
And for me, being restored to sanity, like I used to be that way. Mm-hmm. And so being restored to sanity on my best days, I'm able to not do that. Like I'm able to be like, I felt that reaction. Exactly. I'm not going to necessarily give into that reaction.
That being restored to sanity is that idea of right-sizeness that we talk about.
Yeah.
It's like knowing that I'm enough, that I'm not more or less than, and that's it. And yeah.
And, going back to this idea of like the dubious, well, we didn't say this, but I was thinking about like how anger is a dubious luxury afforded to, like, I think it's like the normal man or something like that. I think, at least in my experience with addiction, it's that I am very bad at moderating.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like, I do everything in excess, and like,
if it feels good, I'm going to do more of it.
Yeah. And for me, it's also the same thing with like venting, right? Yeah. It's like the same thing with like,
it's kind of like what I was saying. It's like,
that's what I was getting back to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and so for me, it's an issue of moderation, right? It's like, if it feels good, I want more of it. And a lot of things feel good. Yeah. Exactly. But I want to like kind of like distill it down to, at least when we're talking about being restored to sanity. Well, let's start with like an example. Can you think of something in your life where like you feel like you've been restored to sanity around it?
My finances.
Oh, say more about that.
Well, okay, so it's been a long process, but before I used to believe that, like if I owed money, I could give it when as long as I give it to you eventually, we're fine. But and this is an oversimplification, but I've gotten to a place recently, and when I say recently, in the last 5 years, where it's like, if I owe it, it's not my money. I don't get to spend this because it's not my money. As much as I think I can put people off, they didn't put me off when I needed it. And so it's like, and it makes me feel better. I also didn't see the benefit. I also didn't understand the benefit of, when you get to a place where you learn how to be responsible, a better steward of your money or finances. Are you
okay?
It does a number. It's like, yeah, I am. I'm having a heart attack.
I'm watching you on the camera, and I'm like, he is going to rip his skin off.
Yeah, no, my skin is so soft here, so it's like I'm all.
But so you were saying restored to sanity around your finances?
Yeah, exactly. Just not around whatever I was doing. Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
Oh, and I was also going to give a plug for Manny A, because in having that conversation with him, he was on the podcast a while back talking about finances. I'm definitely like, I left that affected, and I continually think about his words and everything. Yeah.
Shout out to Manny. Check out that episode.
Manny.
Finances in Recovery. if you're listening and you're new to recovery, I want to add one more thing about being restored to sanity. I think like the easiest way of thinking about it, or maybe the most approachable way of thinking about it, is being restored to sanity. And the way I interpret it is having peace of mind. Mm-hmm. There's having peace of mind. And then there's also my ability to hold and sit with the, uncomfortable situations, right? When things don't go my way. Right. So there's peace of mind and coming back to peace of mind. And then there's also my ability to create peace for myself when I'm uncomfortable. Right. And so one of the things I know about drinking and using is that when I was drinking and using, there like the things that could actually give me peace of mind were like, obviously like drinking and drugs.
Yeah.
And then of course there are all the other things, or like, the temporary relief that came from like sex or food or spending.
A very basic kind of like layman's way of thinking about it too, and just what you're saying. I thought that the drugs and alcohol were what was saving me. And then once I flipped, my restoration of sanity was once that switch was flipped and I realized that they were killing me. Mm-hmm. And they were killing me. And that, it's interesting because I always think it's like the easiest, toughest decision to make when you start to realize, oh, this is what's been going on, because like wires were crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, so the reason why, so what's been happening for me a lot recently is I've been realizing like the peace that I have from being sober. Right. And I don't know why it's taken this long, but what I'm realizing is that when I have routines in place around my recovery, so this is like checking in with my sponsors regularly. Mm-hmm. So I have designated days for all my sponsors, going to meetings regularly, doing step work. And step work includes like a nightly inventory. And if not, I'm not doing a nightly inventory, then I'm like checking in with people, prayer, right? So I don't know what's happened within the last couple of months or maybe last couple of weeks where the act of doing those things, I'm actually feeling it save me like in a very meaningful way. And I think the reason why I'm saying that is because my typical state of mind feels kind of chaotic. Like I wake up and my brain is like, there's like so much going on and it doesn't matter what it is.
We have a comment.
We do have a comment, and we'll take it when I'm done. And so when I was like...
I was wondering when that was going to happen.
You know what? I you know how they do on shows? They like take their mic off. I like unplug this.
Dad, I'm done.
You know what? Let's see this comment.
Yes.
Jaylon. Jaylon, you're so like it was you. I was going to be like, is this comment even worth it? But it is worth it because it's from Jaylon.
In early recovery, I would go to step study meetings all the time. And when we would read step 2, I always thrown off by the being restored to sanity part, because life has always been insane. Recently, I went to a meeting and heard someone say they substitute the word sanity for present, which when I focus on the present moment and I'm able to acknowledge how far I've come, I've had enough time away from the drugs and in turn have confidently gained some type of clarity or sanity, if you will. And absolutely.
I will not.
I like that. I like that idea of changing the present, because I think that a big way to start the process, we do the work. We start to work with the sponsor or whatever we do, and we start to acknowledge how we had been showing up. And a big part of the process, like, once we're aware and we get some awareness and some understanding and some acceptance around how we had been showing up, step one, then we can dive into, we can start like living it, and you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Thank you, Jaylene.
And I would add to, thank you so much for that, Jaylon.
Yes.
I would add to that, and being present, what do you do with being present? Right? It's like, what do you, when you're being present, like, what does that mean? Does that mean that you are like, are you yelling? Are you wishing things were different? Or are you like, what are you doing with that, with your presence, with being present, Oh, this reminds me, Eckhart Tolle. I think that's the way you say his name, or Eckhart Tolle.
Sounds good.
Yeah. He says, if you're bored, you're not present.
Yeah.
Because if you're fully present, he argues, there's nothing to be bored about.
I think that, like, I've always thought, like, in the beginning, when you are beginning to think about what it means to be president, it requires a lot of energy.
Oh,
It requires a lot of energy, because we're constantly reminiscing about the past, future tripping, especially with us, future tripping. I'm thinking about what it's going to look like to have 10 years or whatever, however many years of recovery, or what it looks like when I no longer have to worry about, like, when I can go into a bar without any drama, things like that.
Yeah. Energy. Oh God. I love that you said that, because I shared about this at a meeting yesterday. I have a new favorite meeting. It's on Mondays at 8, Big Book Study online.
Nice.
And yeah, it's a great meeting. And, I was talking about how, like, you can do your fourth and your fifth, and you can do your daily inventory. And, I called my sponsor up the other day, and I was complaining about something, and my sponsor says to me, Anthony, it sounds like you did a great job handling that. And in that conversation, I remembered, like, oh, just because I'm, like, working the program doesn't mean I feel good.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was like, oh shit, like, sometimes it really is sitting with, like, things not going your way, or things not feeling okay.
Yeah. That's a good point. This idea of being restored to sanity is like, you know what? We know the difference now between a bad day or the end of the world. Having a bad day is okay. It's just, and it's going to pass. It's going to pass. It's like, and I'm not supposed to be happy all the time. That is not, like, I don't know anybody who is, and I don't trust them.
Right.
Yeah.
I think thinking about, like, being restored to sanity and just people, places, and things in general. I think one of the step one, what I love about step one, and the way that I understand step one, and I say that because it may not be like a universal understanding of step one, but to say that, like, life had become, that I was powerless and that my life had become unmanageable, like, what I think about that now is, like, I just assume at all times I'm powerless and life is unmanageable. Right. And that's what, we talk about, like, regaining that power through God. But the point is that I think I'm restored to sanity when I don't try to manage other people, and I realize that I'm powerless over people, places, and things. And in fact, it is when I try to control, or when I try to kind of change people, if I'm being annoyed or something, if I'm annoyed, that's when I start to lose my peace of mind. And I think insanity for me, when I think about drinking and using, is that, like, I was just terribly unhappy and constantly trying to control things around me, and feeling like I had some control of things around me.
Imply control, and that's where all the unmanageability came.
Yeah, 100%. But it does take a lot of energy to be present. Sometimes when I pray, I don't know if this happens to you. Sometimes when I pray, I, like, forget that I'm praying. And then I'm like, oh shit, what was I just talking about? And so I've been doing that a lot recently, where, like, I'm praying and then I notice I stop, and then I just kind of, like, come back. And then the other thing that you reminded me of was self-centered fear, about how a lot of the fear I have, or, like, the upsets I have in any situation, has to do with self-centered fear. And what I love about the idea of self-centered fear is that the fear is specific to my idea of what myself is.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, being restored to sanity, I think, what would you say? So you said your finances.
Yeah. What about you?
With my, what have I been restored to sanity about?
Me? Okay.
I'm just not used to you asking about me.
Whatever. Oh my God. Because I don't have to. You just volunteer. I'm all.
You're too quick. Yeah, I was like, how is he going to get out of that one? That was, you're like, why you don't give me a chance to care? So I think my well, if I'm being open, honest, and vulnerable,
oh, I have one for you.
Oh, let's hear it.
No, you've been restored to sanity in a lot of ways around relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Love relationships.
Of course,
because
yeah.
I've witnessed you go through it. And mind you, with grace.
Thank you.
And it doesn't, and this is not always the place where grace shows up.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, and to come on the other end. And so I would be, like that Reddit, am I the asshole? I would be the asshole if I was like, okay, now shut up. Don't talk about all this magic, all the good stuff. Yeah, no, I'm not. I don't want to be the bad guy in this You know?
Yeah, you're so sweet. What I'm thinking about here is being human is hard.
Oh God, yeah.
Right? Like being human is so hard. And
Well,
yeah. Okay, and let me explain.
okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let me explain.
Go ahead.
So I think being human is hard, right? Like, I mean, the Buddhists say that, like, one of the conditions of living is suffering, right? Living is suffering. Mm-hmm. And I think that being restored to sanity in like best case scenario for myself is like, I like learn to have some like humor and flexibility around things. For example, like one of the coolest things that it developed from recovery for me is like, there have been moments now where like I look forward to things not working out, because when things don't work out, I think to myself like, oh, there goes God, right? Now, let's be real. There are things that I feel very protective of. But if for example, like I'm thinking about low stake things like, oh, I'm on my way to a meeting, but like I missed my bus. And that to me, like, that's kind of funny, you know, because it's like, oh, look at life.
Giggle.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, but I mean to speak to what you brought up. I do think that I definitely have more sanity around having like not realistic expectations, but being more flexible around the people I invite into my life. And when it comes to my relationship, for example, like one of the things I tell him a lot is like, you see a side of me that no one gets to see, you know, or actually he gets to see a side of me that no one gets to see. And that's new for me. You know, I've never really.
Oh God, I was going to say something, but be good.
Oh, I know where you're at. I know where you're at. I know who you are. They know who you are. But the point is that I feel like that's like a new development for me. And it doesn't, you know, of course it applies to my relationship, but I think it also applies to my work life, and it applies to like how I show up in my friendships, etc.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. Were you just thinking about something?
No.
Yeah.
I was just cleaning. Like I felt
probably the crumbs from I had. Look,
That's okay. It's like I have stuff here too. So
yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
So, well, I had another thing I wanted to talk about.
Please do.
Okay. So today I consult for the state. I consult executive leadership teams, and I was called in today because they have like a personnel issue. And so the way I see my job is, I don't think I've ever said this out loud, but I think the way I see my job, especially in organizational spaces, is to find ways to bring God into the workspace. Uh-huh. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I think there's a way that like people forget their humanity in workspaces. Anyway, so today, you know, like there was a personnel issue that was brought in.
Is that okay? So
go ahead.
When you say your job is to bring God into it, are you thinking of this is the interpersonal communication I'm having, or when you work with other people, you talk to them about the idea of bringing God into this?
No. So what I'm saying is, when I say no, what I mean is I don't understand what you're saying, and I'll clarify. Okay. So what I'm thinking of is so like I work with these teams of people, right? Because I work for a government agency, I can't necessarily like. And nor would I want to
and
kind
that's
of
the question, actually. That's
yeah.
The question.
So what I'm thinking of is like, all right, I'll explain. So when it comes to like personnel issues, it is very easy for people to start kind of making it about people. Uh-huh. And so what I like to do is, and I believe this is like, I bring people's attention to like systems, right? So I say, for example, like, yeah, there's this conflict here between, say, there's these two people, there's a conflict here, but these two people are operating within a system, and that system is this workplace, and this workplace is shaped by this, and this workplace is shaped by that. And like those things have a way of influencing people, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I like to think that what I'm doing in these like consulting meetings is I am bringing God into conversations, right? And for example, in this case, what I'm doing is I'm bringing in like a more flexible perspective, okay, a more forgiving way of looking at each other.
Absolutely,
you know,
I got you.
Yeah. So that's how I see my work. And when I interact with people, I try to, and which this is also new, I think, and also part of recovery is that I really do, when interacting with other people, especially when I feel annoyed by them, actively look for things that I can love about them, or like things that I can really like kind of cherish and try to like focus on. That's very hard, right? It's not like I'm doing that shit every day, but on my best days, I'm able to do it.
No, it's a good practice.
Yeah, I mean, it's a necessary
I've
practice.
actually been trying to do that at work. I've been trying to do that at work with certain individuals that I just like. They rub me the wrong way from the beginning, and I'm all thinking, you know what? What's going on here? You know, what about them? What qualities?
Yeah.
You know, and it helps a little.
It does help a little.
Uh-huh.
You know. There's a couple of things that I've been doing recently. It's like I ask myself, a year from now, will this matter? You know, sometimes I do that, or I think about like. The other thing I try to get in touch with is like, what are the pains this person has? You know, I try to like level it for me. Have you ever heard, I've talked about the atomic bomb meditation?
I think so.
Yeah. Like the atomic bomb meditation. So like the atomic bomb meditation was taught to me by this guy, in Oakland. And basically what you do is you imagine like, if where I am was going to get hit by an atomic bomb, what would matter to me in this moment? Mm-hmm. You know, and often like that'll, for some people, yeah, because I remember you said something funny the last time I brought that up.
I mean, that's kind of a given. It's like you know what?
Yeah.
I sit up at night thinking about what I'm going to say sometimes. I'm a middle child. You know?
Yeah. I mean, that you have like a comedic mind. I mean, comedians, a lot of my favorite comedians, like they walk around with a notepad and like they'll write down like the ends of like punchlines or like, you know.
My notepad.
Yeah. Yeah.
My notepad is up here. It's like,
but you know, being restored to sanity, I think, yeah, I mean, being restored to sanity, there's so many different ways of thinking about that. I also think about like mental illness. Mm-hmm. And as someone who like deals with mental illness, like being restored to sanity sometimes might be as simple as like, I don't want to kill myself, you know, mm-hmm. or I don't want to stay like tucked away in my bed all day.
Exactly.
You know, sometimes like, and you know, I wrote an article years ago and one of the things I said was like, sometimes like I wonder if being restored to sanity is like the absence of mental illness. And I don't think that that's true these days. You know, I think, you know, there's been a lot of conversation about like neurodiversity and how like every brain matters. It's, oh my God, I didn't mean to juxtapose those things that way, but how, neurodiversity is important because I think what more people are acknowledging is that there's more than one way of living and there's more than one way of being in the world and in relationship with each other. And we need, I think like, I don't mean to be like political or to like wax philosophic, but like in order for us to survive and live kind of peaceful lives, we have to start to be more accepting of our differences. And absolutely. I know that's not brand new. Like that, you know, those kind of messages have been said for a while, but
it might feel brand new because it goes in sometimes one ear and out the other.
Yeah. And you know, it's a message worth repeating.
No, absolutely. It's like, it's necessary. This idea of also being restored to sanity, I think tied to mental illness is like, my restoration to the sanity is understanding how important it is to do the things that I need to do so that I can stay even, so that I can stay in the right and good graces with my mental health, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, go.
You know, I was all, you know, and then we have to start wrapping up.
I know. Wrapping it
up. You know, I took this class years ago and it was a communications class. It was like a requirement. And
it should more communication. I'm sorry. It's like
yeah.
I'm biased in that. Like,
I know. I don't even know why I said like I felt like I had to specify it was a requirement. But one of my favorite lectures was she was talking about, I forgot her name. It was like Dr. Altman, I think. Anyway, one of my favorite like lectures was on like how communication changes when we're speaking to loved ones, and how, for example, like if we're in a relationship or we have a close relationship with someone, there is a way that we don't allow them to be human.
Oh yeah.
Right. There's a way that, for example, like if a stranger lied to us, that's going to impact us differently than say if like a lover lied to us, you know? And one of the things that I think when I think of being restored to sanity is like on my best days, I take a step back and I go, oh, this is just another human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this is just another human, like doing their absolute best. We've talked, and we talk a lot about people doing their best. Were you going to say something?
No, I just say, yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, yeah.
Yeah. So
come to church. Amen.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. But yeah, I think being restored to sanity in a lot of ways for me is just accepting that, you know, like everyone really is doing the best they can with what they have, you know?
And then I'm doing the best that I can.
Yeah. It's the same, you know, same. That's such a good reminder, Louis. Like we're all really doing the best we can. You know, if you woke up today and your eyes are open and you're listening,
absolutely.
You're doing a great job. Like I've talked about, and then we can start wrapping up. But one of the things that I used to do in early recovery is, you know, I have anxiety. I've talked about my anxiety before, and one of the things like I have anxiety about is like being judged or like, which, you know, rooted in childhood, of course. And so what I would do, especially when I was on BART, is I would close my eyes and I would think about everyone's capacity to like feel love, want love, and also experience heartbreak. And the idea that everyone could experience heartbreak was really grounding for me, you know? And I think part of that for me is I think we, again, my opinion, I think that we see humans at their most humanness or their most raw when like they're in pain. You know, anyway, so Brandon, where's that button?
The Castro Country Club is a safe and sober community center for all people and a refuge for the LGBTQ recovery community.
We provide programs and services that help people change their lives by supporting personal growth.
Our vision is to reduce the suffering of addiction by connecting people to community, opportunity, and support.
You can find more information, including all the ways to contact us, at www.castrocountryclub.org/podcast.
Yes, and tune in every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time when you go live on our Castro Country Club Facebook and YouTube channels.
Find us wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yes, and you can, if you're in the area, you know you can come and sit in the audience.
Yeah, sit in. We'd love to see you.
Yes.
Hey, Louis.
Deep breath, count to 10, and let's turn off these lights.
Yeah, I didn't take my gabapentin today.
You.
I almost like rushing to work. I am so beat. Thank you, Brandon, for turning off the lights.
Yes, you're amazing. Brandon is rock star.
Brandon is a rock star.
Yes. How'd you feel about the episode today?
I feel good about it. I think what's hitting me is that being restored to sanity is maybe something we don't talk about enough, or not us. And I don't know why I'm speaking in kind of like generalist terms in this way, but like being restored to sanity, like, isn't that what it's all about? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think we talk about it. Well, we definitely don't talk about it nearly enough. Like we don't talk about mental health and, you know, but I think that, for those of us in recovery, we live it. Like, you know how they say it's like, with spiritual awakenings and changes in us, we don't get to see it. Other people see it before us, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My sponsor says that we're always the last people to know how we've grown.
Yeah. It's around like a really dramatic change for me was around my tenure. And they always talk about like, you reach these milestones and sometimes, but this was one where it's like all of a sudden it's like I had a calmness about me. It's like there was and I know it's a combination. I believe it's a combination of, continued sobriety, doing the work, and growing older. And it's just a level of, I want to say maturity or just I don't give a fuckitness that kind of just crept in, and I love it. I embrace it. But you were talking about like how you were feeling all these things like you put in place, like, you know, doing your step work regularly, meeting with sponsors, I always talk about like I have this list of things that I put in between me and my next use or whatever. And if I'm paying attention, if I'm staying kind of aware or awake, I can tell when I'm running into like
100%, because
I'm letting go of things that are very kind of important to me being, you know, feeling good, like living. And those things change, and they have to change. They change because we change.
Yeah.
Like some days I need this, some days I need that, but whatever. But if I don't have some formula or some kind of cocktail of those things, you know, I know exactly. I'm playing a dangerous game.
You know, you are speaking the truth.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So, you know, going back to this idea of finances. Mm-hmm. So, oh wow, Louis. Yeah. You just did something for me. So one of the things that I've noticed is that, okay, so, you know, we hear a lot, what you put before your recovery, you'll lose. Mm-hmm. Okay. So for me recently, what I'm noticing is that I tend to operate in extremes, and in some cases, like it just feels necessary, especially when it comes to like school stuff or whatever. But even in then, like no big deals, right? Going back to what I was trying to talk about a second ago. So with my finances, so all things can be in place. My finances, however, are like the one place in my life where I still have some disorder. And it came up in SLA, actually. We were doing step work in SLA and it came up. And so I started meeting with a financial coach. And my first meeting with my financial coach was super fucking overwhelming. Super overwhelming. I hadn't realized how much ambiguity and lack of clarity I had around my finances. Louis, I'm telling you, I was like, oh, I totally forgot I had that. And then he pulled up my credit report and he goes, oh yeah, you have a balance over here. And I was like, what? And so there was, apparently I had a balance on a credit card that I didn't know about the balance, you know? And so all of that is to say, so my like addiction will start to veer its head in other places.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and the part where I start to get in trouble is when I am not, what is it? What you said something, when all these things are in place, it's honest to God, everything falls into place, right? Mm-hmm. Everything just kind of aligns.
Yeah.
If those things are not in place, they start to show up in those areas of my life where there's still some vulnerability. There's still some insanity. There we go.
And it's waiting, like they say, it's waiting for us. It's waiting for an opportunity to creep in. It's absolutely waiting for an opportunity to creep in.
Oh yes. And I'm you know, and you know, we address things in the order that they're killing us, and you know, I'm taking it as evidence that, like, you know, I'm growing in my recovery because, you know, I haven't looked at my finances in this way before. And, you know, I'll be graduating soon and I'd like to buy a home and, you know, all this other stuff. And, you know, it's coming up in this way that's like really uncomfortable. And I feel like a newcomer all over again.
And that's what we listen to Manny's words, and not, you know, the way we don't judge our step work or step for it, that we just kind of look at it as information.
Yeah.
And not place judgment. And it's hard because it's like, think about how old I am and how, you know, even though I don't have anybody, well, obviously I don't have anybody physically telling me, but all the messages like, you should be there, you should be this should look like this. And yeah,
I get that. And, you know, I think that's like one of those that's one of those areas where I feel like we also need to look at context. And it's like, it's 2023. It's not like the economy is the best. A lot of people are actually in the same financial situation, just not talking about it.
Oh, God, yeah.
You know, there's, you know, so much. I mean, we also live in like a debt economy, and the point is that it is hard, like regular, like, you know, like recovery from substances, you know, sobriety around finances can also be very difficult. And I think, you know, that's actually one of the places I'll say out loud is like, I have some powerless and unmanageability around. And it's interesting because it happens in private, you know, it's just, oh man. But you know, I share all of that to say that, there's always work to do. And part of that for me is like, I'm also like, there's always work to do. And part of that work is being in acceptance and having peace around, you know, like, so in the big book, one of my favorite lines is, and we cease fighting everyone and everything, including alcohol. That's one of my favorite 10-step
promise.
Yeah. That's one of my all-time favorite lines. You know, we cease fighting everyone and everything, including alcohol.
Yes.
And, you know, when we're not fighting, I think that's when we're restored to sanity.
I love that.
Did we just land a plane?
I think we did.
Brandon, I think we're going to wrap things up.
Wrap.